girl in the rainth night was heavy with rain. Streets of Los Angeles were glowing with reflections from neon signs, headlights, and passing buses. Keanu Reeves had just finished a quiet dinner with a friend. He left the restaurant without bodyguards, without the crowd he was used to, and walked alone with his hood up. The rain soaked his jacket, but he did not care. He liked the silence of nights like these, when the city slowed down and he could simply be a man walking home. As he crossed an intersection, he saw something unusual. Under the dim light of a broken street lamp, a young woman was kneeling on the wet ground. Her clothes were torn, her hair plastered to her face by the rain. Beside her, wrapped in thin blankets, were two tiny babies. She was not shouting, not holding out her hand. She was simply sitting there, shivering, her body curved. Protectively over the children, Keanu stopped walking. His first thought was that maybe she was waiting for someone. But the way she trembled, the way her lips moved in silent whispers, told a different story. A cardboard sign lay flat against the sidewalk, the ink washed away by water. Only a few. Words remained visible. Please. Food. Babies. Something inside him clenched. He had seen homelessness before, but this was different. There was no anger in her eyes, no begging for attention. There was only exhaustion, quiet despair, and a desperate will to shield her children from the cold. For a moment, he just stood there, unsure of what to do. People passed by. Cars splashed water near the curb, but no one stopped. It was as if she and her children were invisible. Keanu could not move forward. Something inside told him he could not just walk away. He stepped closer, his voice gentle. Careful not to frighten her. Are you all right? The girl looked up slowly. Her eyes were red, swollen from tears, and her voice was so soft he almost could not hear. Please, they're hungry. I tried, but I can't. I don't have anyone. Her words were broken, and her body shook harder with every syllable. The babies whimpered under the blankets, their tiny cries swallowed by the rain. Keanu felt his throat tighten. He crouched down to her level, rain dripping from his hood. Let me help, he said. The girl's eyes widened as if she did not believe what she heard. Strangers usually walked away. Some sneered, some tossed coins without. Looking, no one sat down in the rain with her. Keanu removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. It was not much, but it was warm. The babies stirred and one began to cry louder. Keanu reached into his bag and pulled out a bottle of water, but there was nothing else. No food, no milk. He knew he could not solve everything right there, but he could not leave them on the ground. There's a cafe just down the street, he said gently. Come with me. You and the babies need warmth. The girl hesitated, clutching her children tightly, fear flashing in her eyes. Trust did not come easy when the world had already been cruel. But something in his tone, calm, kind, steady, made her nod faintly. He helped her stand, supporting her thin frame. She was lighter than he expected, fragile, as if she had not eaten properly in weeks. Together, they walked through the rain toward the cafe. Heads turned when they entered, water dripping from their clothes, but Keanu ignored the stares. He guided the girl to a corner table and asked the staff for warm milk, bread, and soup. As the food arrived, the babies calmed, their tiny mouths sucking weakly on bottles of warm milk. The girl lowered her head, tears mixing with rain as she whispered, Thank you. I don't even know your name. Keanu hesitated. He never liked the attention his name brought, but hiding it felt wrong. I'm Keanu, he said softly. Eyes widened again, recognition flickering across her tired face. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Instead, she lowered her gaze, embarrassed. As though ashamed of her condition in front of a man she had only seen on screens, Keanu leaned forward, his voice calm. You don't have to say anything. Just eat. You need strength. The cafe grew quiet around them, the storm outside pressing against the windows. He watched as she carefully fed her children, every motion filled with love despite her trembling hands. He saw how her body shielded them, even when she herself was falling apart. Inside, he felt a deep ache. He had known loss, loneliness, grief. But what he saw here was a mother's silent battle, and fought with nothing but love and desperation. He knew this night was not just chance. Something had brought him here, to this exact street, to this exact moment. And as he sat there watching her cradle her babies, Keanu felt an unshakable truth settle inside him. This encounter was only the beginning. The rain outside showed no sign of stopping. Neither, he realized, with the weight of what he had just discovered. Shadows of her past cafe was quiet except for the steady patter of rain against the windows. Keanu watched the young mother as she fed her babies slowly, carefully making sure they were comforted before she touched the food herself. Hunger burned in her eyes, but her children always came first. That quiet sacrifice pulled at his heart, even more than her tears. When the babies finally drifted into light sleep, the girl picked up a spoon of soup with shaking hands. Keanu spoke gently, not wanting to push her, but knowing she needed someone to listen. "What's your name?" he asked. Her lips trembled, as if even saying her name felt heavy. "Sophia," she whispered. "Sophia," he repeated softly, as if giving her name weight and respect. "And your twins?" She brushed her thin fingers over their damp blankets. "Amelia and Lucas.
Ow.
They're only 6 months." Keanu let the names settle in his mind. Beautiful names, fragile and innocent, yet already fighting against the harsh world. He leaned forward. "Sophia, what happened? Why are you out there in the rain with them?" She froze, her eyes filling with fear and shame. Her hand clutched the spoon tighter. For a moment, he thought she would stay silent. Then her shoulders slumped, and the truth came out in broken words. "My parents are gone. I had no one. I thought I had found someone who cared, someone who promised he would take care of me. But when the twins were born, he left, said he couldn't handle the responsibility. I had no money, no family, nowhere to go. I tried to find work, but nobody wants to hire a girl carrying 2 babies. People look at me like I'm nothing. Some laugh, some just walk past." Her voice cracked. "I can't pay rent. They told me to leave. I tried shelters, but they were full. I didn't know where else to go. Tonight I thought maybe if people saw the babies, they would understand. But nobody looked at us. Until you." Her words struck Keanu like a knife. He had known rejection and loneliness, but hers was a battle against cruelty, indifference, and a world that had turned its back on her. He said nothing for a moment. He only let her speak, let her release the weight she had carried alone. When she grew quiet, he finally said, "You are not nothing. You are strong. I see the way you hold them, the way you protect them. It takes more courage than most people will ever know." Tears streamed down her face silently. Nobody had said those words to her before. Keanu placed his hand lightly on the table,
Ow.
close enough for her to feel his presence but not force trust. "Sophia, I don't think it's an accident that I met you tonight. I want to help you, but I need you to let me. Will you?" She looked at him with wide, doubtful eyes. People had promised her things before. They had left her with nothing. How could she trust another man, even if he was someone the world admired? Her lips parted, but before she could answer, the cafe door opened with a harsh slam. A group of men walked in, their voices loud and sharp. Sophia's entire body tensed. Keanu noticed the change instantly. "What is it?" he asked quietly. Her eyes darted to the men, then back down. "Please don't let them see me." Keanu's heart pounded. Whoever those men were, Sophia's fear was real. She pulled the babies closer, shielding them under her arms. The men ordered drinks loudly, laughing crudely, but one of them glanced around the cafe. His eyes lingered too long in their direction. Keanu shifted in his chair, his calm presence turning watchful, protective. He leaned closer to Sophia and whispered, "Do you know them?" Her whisper was barely audible. "Yes, they used to follow me. They said things. They said I should give them the babies, that I was too weak to take care of them. I ran every time I saw them. I don't know why they're here." Anger rose inside Keanu, but he kept his voice steady. "You don't have to run tonight. You're not alone anymore." Her eyes widened, searching his face, trying to understand if he truly meant it. The man who had been staring stood up. his boots heavy against the floor as he walked closer. His smile was cold. Well, look who it is. It's a little stray. With her brats, Sophia trembled, pressing her children closer. The cafe grew tense, the staff frozen in silence. Keanu stood slowly, placing himself between the man and Sophia. His voice was calm, but firm. "Leave her alone," the man sneered. "And who are you supposed to be?" "Her knight." Keanu's eyes were steady, his posture unshaken. I said, "Leave her alone." The cafe air thickened. The rain outside grew heavier, as if echoing the storm building inside. Sophia's heart raced. For the first time in months, someone had stepped forward, not to hurt her, not to abandon her, but to stand in front of her. What would happen next? She did not know. But, deep inside, something flickered, a fragile spark of hope. The night of confrontation, the man's sneer grew wider, his eyes flicking from Keanu to Sophia like a predator circling prey. The cafe had gone silent, every customer watching, but none daring to interfere. Keanu stood tall, his body calm, yet solid, a quiet shield between Sophia and danger. He had no interest in fighting, but he would not step aside. His voice came out low and steady, the kind of voice that carried weight without needing to shout. "She's with me, if you will walk away." The man laughed harshly. "With you? Doesn't belong to anyone. She's just a useless girl with kids she can't feed." Keanu felt Sophia tremble behind him. His jaw tightened. She belongs to herself, and she deserves respect. "Now leave." The man's laughter cut off. Anger flickered in his eyes. He leaned closer, his breath sour with alcohol. "You think you can order me around? Who do you think you are?" Keanu didn't move. "Someone who won't let you hurt her." For a tense moment, the man stood still, the cafe heavy with silence. Then he smirked. "Fine, but this isn't over. People like her don't get rescued. Sooner or later, she'll be back on the street. And when she is, she's ours." He spat the last word and walked out, his friends following, their laughter fading into the storm outside. Sophia collapsed against the table, clutching her babies tight, her tears flowing freely. Keanu turned back to her slowly, kneeling so he could meet her eyes. "They won't touch you again, I promise." She shook her head, her voice shaking. "You don't understand. They know where I go. They wait. Sometimes they follow me all night. I can't escape them. Can't escape any of this." Her despair was heavy, pressing against him. Keanu reached out gently, his hand resting on the table close to hers, but not forcing contact. "Sophia, listen to me. You're not alone anymore. Tonight, we make a change. I won't let you or the babies go back to the street." She looked at him, disbelief etched into her face. "Why? Why would you care? You don't even know me." Keanu's eyes softened. "Because I know what it feels like to lose. I know what it's like when the world feels empty, and no one deserves to fight that battle alone. Especially not you, not with them depending on you." Her lips quivered, her eyes filling with silent gratitude. Though fear still clung to her like a shadow, Keanu stood and paid for the food quietly, leaving a generous tip that made the staff glance after him in awe. Then he turned back to Sophia. "Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe." She froze. Leaving the cafe meant stepping into the storm again, into uncertainty. But staying meant waiting for those men to return. She looked down at her children, sleeping now in the warmth of the blankets. Finally, she nodded. Keanu lifted one of the babies carefully, his large hand surprisingly gentle. Sophia gasped at first, but then saw the way he held the child secure, steady, as if the baby was made of glass. Something in her chest loosened for the first time in months. They stepped back into the rain together. The city seemed louder, harsher, the storm washing through empty streets. But Sophia felt a strange sense of protection walking beside him. Keanu led her to his car parked a few streets away. Sophia hesitated when she saw it, her worn shoes sinking into puddles. "I don't belong in something like this," she whispered. Keanu shook his head gently. "You belong in safety. Nothing else matters." Once inside, the heater filled the car with warmth. The twins stirred softly, but soon settled again. Sophia sat in silence, her eyes staring out the window, her thoughts heavy with doubt and fear. After a long drive through the rain, Keanu pulled up to a modest building. It wasn't a mansion or hotel. It was a small, quiet shelter he supported secretly, a place for women and children who had nowhere else to go. He turned to Sophia. "This isn't charity. This is a place for you to rest, to breathe, to find your strength again." Her voice cracked. "Nobody's ever said that to me." As they entered, staff members greeted Keanu with respect, but no surprise. They had seen him before, helping quietly, never seeking attention. A room was prepared quickly for Sophia and the twins. Warm blankets, clean clothes, and a small crib were brought in. Sophia stood frozen, overwhelmed. She whispered, "This feels like a dream. I don't know if I'll wake up back in the rain." Keanu met her eyes. "It's not a dream. This is the beginning." For the first time in months, Sophia felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. But as she lay down with her children that night, her mind could not let go of one thought. The men would not give up, and if they found out she was here, everything could collapse again. She closed her eyes tightly, praying the shadows of her past would not follow her into this fragile new light. Asterisk, fragile Hapith, morning sun pushed through the curtains, painting soft light across the small room. Sophia stirred awake to the gentle breathing of her twins beside her. For the first time in months, she hadn't woken up to rain, cold, or fear of strangers hovering nearby. The shelter was quiet, filled with the faint sounds of children laughing. In another room, she sat up slowly, her heart unsure whether to trust the calm around her. Safety felt strange. Comfort felt borrowed, like it could vanish at any second. A knock came at the door. Sophia froze, her body tensing until she heard Keanu's gentle voice. "It's me. May I come in?" She opened the door, her face still pale from restless thoughts. Keanu smiled softly, holding 2 cups of tea. "I thought you could use something warm." She accepted it with trembling hands. "Thank you for everything. I don't know why you're doing this, but thank you." Keanu sat on the chair across from her, his posture relaxed, but his eyes serious. "You don't need to thank me. What you need is a chance. This place will give you that." "But Sophia," paused, his voice lowering, "I need you to be honest. With me, those men from last night, do they know where you usually go? Could they follow you here?" Her face fell, fear flooding back. She nodded faintly. "They watch me sometimes. I never told them about this place, but if they see me again, they might follow. They don't care about me. They only want to take the babies. They said I was weak, that I'd never survive with them. I think they wanted to sell them." The words left her mouth and hung in the air like poison. Keanu's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists on his knees. Rage flickered inside him. But he kept his voice calm for her sake. "It will not touch your children. I'll make sure of that." Sophia shook her head, tears welling. "You can't fight the whole world for me. Sooner or later I'll have to face them. And I'm not strong enough." Keanu leaned forward, his eyes steady. "You are stronger than you know. I saw it last night. Strength isn't about standing tall when life is easy. It's about holding your babies in the rain when the world turns its back. And you did that. That's real strength." Sophia's lips trembled. Nobody had ever spoken of her pain with such respect. For a brief moment, warmth filled her chest, but then the sound of raised voices echoed from outside the shelter. Her body stiffened. Keanu rose instantly, his senses sharp. "Stay here with the twins," he said firmly, before stepping out. Sophia's heart raced as she held Amelia and Lucas tighter. Fear clawed at her throat. Outside, 2 of the men from the cafe stood at the edge of the property, arguing with the shelter staff. One pointed toward the door angrily. "You know she's in there, the girl with the babies. Can't hide her." From us, Keanu walked out calmly, his presence commanding the space before he even spoke. The men froze when they recognized him. One of them scoffed nervously, trying to mask his unease. "What's this? Movie star wants to play hero again?" Keanu's eyes stayed cold and steady. "Leave. Now. If you ever come near her or her children again, you'll answer to me." The The man laughed, but it was thin, forced. You think you scare us? We're not afraid of cameras or fans? Keanu stepped closer, his voice dropping low. This has nothing to do with cameras. It has to do with me not letting you harm a mother and her children. Cross that line again and you'll regret it. The men exchanged uneasy glances. They muttered curses, but finally turned and walked away. Disappearing into the street, the shelter staff exhaled in relief, thanking Keanu quietly, but his mind stayed restless. He knew men like that didn't give up easily. They would wait, they would watch, and they would return. When he went back inside, Sophia was standing by the window, her babies in her arms, her face pale. She had heard enough to know. They'll never stop, she whispered. They'll keep hunting me. I'll never be free. Keanu walked closer, his voice calm but fierce. And we'll find a way to end this, Sophia. For good. Her eyes lifted to his, searching, fragile hope, battling with deep fear. Nobody had ever stood this firmly for her. Nobody had ever said they would fight beside her, not just for a moment. But until the threat was gone, inside her, something shifted. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a future waiting for her and her twins beyond survival. Yet deep in the shadows of the city, those men were already whispering, already planning, and what they intended next would test every ounce of strength Sophia and Keanu had left. Storm before the truth night returned heavy and restless. Sophia sat by the crib where Amelia and Lucas slept, her fingers brushing softly over their tiny hands. The shelter was quiet, but her heart was not.
Damn.
Every creak of the building, every distant sound of footsteps made her think of the men who wanted to steal her babies. Keanu knocked gently on the door before stepping inside. He carried 2 bowls of warm food, but his eyes were watchful, carrying the same weight she felt. He placed the bowls down and sat across from her. You didn't eat all day, he said quietly. She shook her head. I can't eat when I know they're out there waiting. I keep asking myself why. Why do they want to hurt us? What did I ever do to them? Keanu leaned forward, his voice steady. People like that don't need a reason. They look for weakness. And when they see it, they try to take advantage. But Sophia, they misjudged you. You are not weak. You kept your babies alive with nothing but your love. It takes more strength than they will ever have. Tears filled her eyes. But this time, they weren't only from fear. His words sank deep, touching the part of her heart that still longed to believe she was worth something. But before she could speak, the shelter lights flickered. Distant shouts cut through the night air. Keanu stood at once, his body alert. Sophia clutched her babies, her chest tightening. Keanu moved to the window, pulling the curtain just enough to look outside. Dark shapes shifted near the fence. More than 2 men this time, at least 5. Their voices were low, but their movements were sharp, filled with intent. They're here, Keanu said firmly, his voice calm but edged with steel. Sophia's breath caught. What do we do? He turned back to her, his eyes steady. We don't run. Running gives them power. We call the police, and I'll keep them outside until help comes. Her heart pounded. But if they get in, he placed a hand on her. Shoulder, firm and grounding. They won't. I'll make sure of it. He left the room, instructing the shelter staff quickly. The call to the police was made, but the men outside grew bolder, shaking the fence, shouting threats. Come out, girl. One voice roared, You can't hide forever. Those kids don't belong to you. Inside, Sophia held her babies tighter, rocking them as their small cries rose from the chaos. Her tears fell freely, dripping onto their blankets. She whispered. Through sobs, you're mine. You'll always be mine. Nobody will take you. Outside, Keanu stepped into the rain, his figure calm against the storm. The men stopped shouting for a moment when they saw him. You again, one spat. You think you're some kind of savior? Keanu's voice cut through the night. I think you're cowards. 5 men against 1 woman and 2 children. Leave now before you make a mistake you can't take back. They laughed cruelly, circling closer, but Keanu didn't move. Every part of his body radiated steady control. A warning without needing fists or violence. "The police are on their way," he said firmly. "If you're still here when they arrive, you'll lose more than your freedom. You'll lose every chance to crawl back into the shadows you came from." Their laughter faltered. Some glanced nervously at the street. The sound of distant sirens began to echo faintly through the storm. Anger twisted the leader's face. He pointed a finger at Keanu. "This isn't over. You can hide her for now, but you can't hide her forever. We'll find her, and when we do, you won't be there to protect her." They scattered into the darkness just before flashing lights pulled up. The police rushed in, questioning the staff, checking the grounds. But Sophia knew in her heart this was not the end. When Keanu returned to her room, drenched from the rain, she stood up quickly, her face pale. "They won't stop," she said, her voice trembling. "They'll come back. They'll wait until you're gone. I can't put everyone here in danger because of me." Keanu met her eyes, his voice low and firm. "Then we face the truth. I need to know everything, Sophia. Who they are. Why they're so determined. If we don't understand, we can't stop them." Her lips quivered, her body shaking. She turned away, holding Amelia and Lucas close, as if hiding them from the world. "If I tell you," she whispered, "you'll see how broken I really am. You'll see the mistakes that led me here." Keanu's voice softened. "We all carry mistakes, but mistakes don't define you. What defines you is how you fight for, what matters. And right now, that's them. Tell me the truth, Sophia, please." The room fell silent, except for the soft rain against the windows and the steady breathing of her babies. Sophia's shoulders trembled as she turned back to him, her face streaked with tears. "Those men? They're not strangers," she whispered. "They're connected to the man who left me. And if you knew who he really was, you'd understand why they'll never let me go." The breaking of Chain's silence after Sophia's words felt heavier than the storm outside. Keanu sat still, his eyes steady, waiting for her to continue. Sophia clutched her twins closer, her body trembling, her voice breaking with every word. "The man who left me. He wasn't just anyone. He was rich, powerful. He lived in a world I didn't belong to. When I told him I was pregnant, he swore he would take care of us. After the twins were born, everything changed. He said I had ruined his life, that I was nothing more than a mistake, and then he disappeared." Her tears fell onto Amelia's blanket. "But he didn't just disappear. He sent people, men like the ones you saw. They told me if I ever spoke his name, if I ever tried to ask for help, they would take the babies. They said I had no right to raise them, that he would decide their future. I was too scared to fight back. So I ran. Every day I ran." Keanu's jaw tightened. Anger burned behind his calm eyes. "So these men, they're working for him." She nodded faintly, her whole body shaking. "Yes, and he won't stop. He has money, power, connections. I can't win against him." Keanu leaned closer, his voice firm. "Sophia, you're wrong about one thing. You don't have to win alone. You have me. Together, we can bring the truth into the light. No one is untouchable when the truth is revealed." Her eyes widened, fear and disbelief mixing inside her. "But if his name comes out, he'll destroy me." Keanu shook his head gently. "No, he already tried to destroy you, but you're still here. And now, you're not alone. The only way to end his control is to show the world who he really is." Sophia's lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, but doubt clung to her heart. Keanu reached out, his hand resting gently on her arm, steady and grounding. "You've already survived the worst. Now it's time to take back your life." The following days were filled with movement. Keanu used quiet connections, people he trusted to gather information. He met with lawyers, reporters, and advocates who fought for women and children silenced by power. Sophia told her story in detail, her voice shaking but stronger each time. The name of the man came out, someone respected in business, a man whose wealth gave him influence over politicians and police. When the truth reached the media, it spread fast. Photos of Sophia in the rain with her babies, the sign washed by water. Her tear-stained face, these became symbols of survival. The man denied everything at first. He called her a liar. His men tried to intimidate, but the world was watching now. People stood behind Sophia, the shelter staff, the reporters. Strangers who had once walked past without looking, they now raised their voices for her. Through it all, Keanu stayed by her side. Quiet, steady, never seeking praise, only making sure she and her babies were safe. One evening, Sophia sat in the shelter garden, her babies asleep in the crib beside her. She looked at Keanu, her eyes filled with something new, not just fear or sorrow, but light. "I don't understand why you stayed," she whispered. "You could have walked away that night. You didn't owe me anything." Keanu looked at her gently, the corners of his lips lifting in a soft smile. "Maybe I didn't know you. But sometimes life shows us a path we can't ignore. I saw you in the rain because I was meant to. And once I saw you, I couldn't turn away." Her tears fell again. But this time, they weren't only sad. They were filled with release, with gratitude, with the fragile beginning of trust. The months that followed were not easy. Court battles, media storms, long nights filled with fear. But Sophia did not run anymore. She stood. She fought. She spoke her truth with a voice that grew stronger each day. And when the final verdict came, the man who had abandoned her was stripped of power and exposed to the world. Sophia was free. In the quiet after the storm, she stood in the sunlight. Holding Amelia and Lucas, they laughed softly, their tiny hands reaching for the sky. She turned to Keanu, her voice breaking with emotion. "You gave me back my life. You gave my children a future. How can I ever repay you?" Keanu shook his head, his eyes warm. "You already have. Every time you choose hope instead of fear, every time you smile at them, every time you keep going, you repay me. You're stronger than you know, Sophia. Never forget that." Sophia smiled through tears, pulling her babies close. For the first time in a long time, she believed she was not broken. She was a mother. She was a survivor. And now she was free, and somewhere deep inside her heart, she knew the night Keanu saw her in the rain had not been chance. It had been the beginning of a story where love, respect, and kindness proved stronger than power and fear.